Look, I think it's pretty obvious to every single one of us that Donald Trump has no plan for Venezuela. He is completely out of it. He has no idea what he's doing. And if you asked him to point to Venezuela on a map, he wouldn't be able to find it. He'd probably end up in Asia or Africa or somewhere. He has no idea what's going on. But now the Washington Post pretty much just confirmed this, that the U.S. plan to govern Venezuela, or at least what's next for the future, is total nonsense. And of course, we also have the most incompetent people trying to implement this so-called plan. And some of the details in this article are really just mind-numbingly stupid. And it's coming from Donald Trump, the people around him, and the highest levels of our government. So we're going to go through this Washington Post article, see what Trump's thinking is. Before I do any of that, make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about the story. And without further ado, let's just get into it. So, Maduro's allies in Caracas are still in power, some defiantly haranguing about U.S. imperialism. The democratically elected opposition leaders are effectively exiled, bluntly sidelined by the Trump regime, and Washington continues to hint at more military action, not only against Venezuela, but other perceived enemies in the region, such as Cuba and Colombia. And that is true. Donald Trump is telling both of those countries to watch their backs. So I think Trump, by maybe mid 2026 or even the next couple of months, who knows? I think by that time frame, he wants to control Cuba, Venezuela, and Colombia. Regime change in all those countries, if not just outright control them. Cuba's state news agency reported late Sunday that 32 Cuban security personnel were killed in direct combat with U.S. forces who seized Maduro. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a longtime hawk on Venezuela and now publicly the face of Trump's policy there, bristled when asked repeatedly Sunday to explain how the U.S. would ensure control of Venezuela without resorting to the sort of invasion and nation building that led to quagmires in Iraq and Afghanistan. Quote, "What we are running is the direction that this is going to be moving forward," which is means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing, adding that the U.S. would continue to apply pressure through restrictions on Venezuela's oil trade. The aim, Rubio said, would be to stop Venezuela from doing things that run contrary to U.S. interests. Do the drugs stop coming? Are the changes made? Is Iran expelled? Does the migration pattern stop? And of course, speaking on Air Force One Sunday evening, which we covered on the show, Donald Trump offered a different view. So they're just not on the same page, saying, quote, "What we want to do is fix the oil up, fix up the country, bring the country back, and then have elections," Trump told reporters as he returned to Washington. The president also said that military action in Colombia sounded good to him and that he thought Cuba was ready to fall without U.S. intervention. So Rubio saying these certain demands have to be met. Donald Trump is saying, well, we want the oil. I mean, Donald Trump is at least on this issue being honest. I mean, he's saying, yeah, it's for oil. At least in that sentence. Every other time he's spoken about it, he's just lied, but maybe his medication worn off. Maybe he didn't have enough aspirin for the day and he let something slip that he wants to fix up the oil, and that's what they want to do. They just want the oil. So they're not on the same page. They're offering two different explanations to the American people, which already shows that this alleged plan that they have is not much of a plan to begin with. Here's more, though. It's not clear how the U.S. will manage the complex diplomacy in Venezuela on a practical level. Of course, Trump said Saturday that a working group of top advisors was deeply engaged in planning for Venezuela's future, but even those roles and responsibilities appear unclear. Donald Trump said that these top advisors are working on this, but he hasn't specified what those positions are. And as you'll see in just a moment, Donald Trump has gutted America's foreign policy, making it even more difficult to have experts chime in on the topic. Rubio is personally focused on the program, but his expansive portfolio as both Secretary of State and National Security Advisor means he's unlikely to have the time to steer the day-to-day policy, which, of course, Donald Trump is just putting loyalists in every single position and having them do multiple jobs. Having dismantled much of the U.S. foreign policy infrastructure since he came to power, Trump depends on a small number of trusted personnel and business associates to handle core issues such as his peace plan in Gaza, negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, and now Venezuela. The National Security Council staff has been gutted, and the administration has yet to nominate an assistant secretary of state to handle the Western Hemisphere. That might be an important thing to do before you invade a country. Don't you think that? Oh my God. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's so mind-numbingly stupid. Don't you think that before you invade a country in the hemisphere that, I don't know, maybe you might want to have a assistant secretary of state to handle these matters, just another pair of eyes, preferably an expert, not just a loyalist. But don't you think that might be something you have ahead of time as opposed to after the fact? No, of course not. It's Donald Trump's regime. Why would I even suggest such a crazy thing? Now, here's where it gets really bad. The White House is weighing giving Stephen Miller, Trump's deputy White House chief of staff and Homeland Security advisor, a more elevated role in overseeing post-Maduro operations in Venezuela, according to one person with knowledge on the conversation. Stephen Miller, if Stephen Miller had his way, the entirety of Venezuela would be white. There would be no people of color. There'd be no people native to Venezuela. It would just be people in Stephen Miller's image. That's what he would want. If the entire country was run by him having a more elevated role in the day-to-day operations, God help us. God help Venezuela. I'm serious. If Stephen Miller's in that. Trump admin officials have also warned that Rodriguez, the vice president for Maduro, who has now taken over, could face more military action if she did not acquiesce to American demands, with the president himself telling the Atlantic magazine on Sunday that she could pay a bigger price than Maduro. Does that mean killing her? Death? I mean, what's a bigger price than being abducted and then thrown into jail? Trump said on Air Force One that he hasn't spoken with her yet, though there are no longer U.S. troops on the ground in Venezuela, according to multiple U.S. officials. Close to a dozen warships and scores of fighter jets, drones, and surveillance aircraft, along with approximately 15,000 troops, remain in the Caribbean and are standing by. So they're on active standby mode just in case Donald Trump wakes up and wants another strike. And what this means to me, at least how I'm reading this, is that if Rodriguez, the vice president who has taken over, doesn't just bend the knee to Donald Trump, give him all the oil, give him the deals, whatever it might be, let American oil companies come in and take the oil, then I guess Donald Trump wants to bomb them again. That's, I guess, my reading of it. Okay, sure. This is the plan that they have. The day before Trump had, and here's where it gets really crazy. This is, the Nobel Peace Prize comes up. Donald Trump being upset that he didn't get it, and that's affecting his policy in Venezuela. The day before Trump had effectively dismissed the prospects of Venezuela Democratic opposition, including the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Corina Machado, whose standing candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez, won more than 2/3 of the vote in an election last year that saw Maduro refuse to leave office. Quote, it'd be very tough for her, that is Machado, to be the leader, which is a very strange thing to say because, she won the Nobel Peace Prize. She is this really coveted figure in Venezuela, seen as like a symbol of peace. So it's like, why would Donald Trump endorse the vice president who's a Maduro loyalist as opposed to Machado, who is far more interested in, fixing up the country, establishing peace, and working with the outside world? Very, very weird. And he said that she doesn't have the respect within the country, which is just not true. Associates of Machado, who covertly escaped Venezuela last month with the help of the United States to attend the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony in Norway, were caught off guard. Yeah, I agree. One Venezuelan opposition leader who spoke anonymously said Trump's remarks were difficult for many in the opposition movement to hear, but in every transition, you have to swallow some bitter pills. But here's the thing. Two people close to the White House said the president's lack of interest in boosting Machado, despite her recent efforts to flatter Trump, stemmed from her decision to accept the Nobel Peace Prize. He is letting the Nobel Peace Prize beef that he has dictate what the policy is in Venezuela. This child, this egotistical, narcissistic orange loser, is so upset about not getting the Nobel Peace Prize that he's now putting Venezuela in a worse position. I cannot believe that this is our country. I really, really can't. I really, really can't believe that Donald Trump got elected over Kamala Harris. Oh, man. Although Machado ultimately said she was dedicating the award to Trump, which is obviously an attempt from, she is savvy. She's going to dedicate it to Donald Trump to flatter him. Her acceptance of the prize was an ultimate sin, said one of the people. If she had turned it down and said, I can't accept it because it's Donald Trump's, she'd be the president of Venezuela today, according to people with knowledge on the matter. That's the president of the United States. So, and these are just some details of the plan. There's no plan, essentially. There's no plan. We're right now basing policy in Venezuela off of Donald Trump's emotions. He's upset he didn't win a prize. He wants to bully the new vice president into just giving him everything, and if they don't, he's going to bomb him again. Among the other things like Stephen Miller taking an elevated role and Marco Rubio contradicting Donald Trump. It is a mess. It's a mess, which is, again, not surprising given that we have some of the most incompetent people in America running America, but nonetheless still depressing. So look, I will leave the video there. I just think this is so insane. But Yeah, I will continue to cover this story. I appreciate you all so much. Make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about all of this. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your